Hi everyone, back with the second video of the day and another tag response, and this is my response to the ladder tarot tag, which has been set up by MsTracyToo, and this is a very interesting tag and a really clever idea. What Tracy has suggested is that we look at the different levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, that pyramid that's got the basic needs at the bottom, and then you need your basic needs fulfilled before you need to be concerned about safety, etc. And then you go up to confidence and higher self and love and all that kind of thing. I'll post a link below to Tracy's original video, and in her video she also includes a link, or on her page she includes a link to the Wikipedia page where you can learn about Maslow's hierarchy of needs if you don't already know about it. But what she's asking us to do is to choose decks for 5 levels on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and this is such a clever idea, so I thought it would be fun to participate. So let's just begin at the very bottom of the pyramid. So that's the basic needs, and what she's asking here is, what tarot decks would you use to provide for your basic tarot needs, the deck that gives you the basics? Well, I'm going to talk about 2 that I'm going to kind of discount for the purposes of this video because they're just, in some ways, they're so obvious for me. One is the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, because it's just so ubiquitous and so great and so foundational for many of us, and it's the Rider-Waite-Smith system is the system I learned on, yeah, so it's kind of, it would provide for the basics. But I've just done a video on all about Rider-Waite-Smith, a response to a previous tag that was set up, so I'm not going to talk about Rider-Waite-Smith here. I'll link to that below, but just to say that would be one of my decks. Another deck would be the Marseille Tarot, or indeed any Pip deck, because the basic foundational structure of tarot, of the 22 trumps, the 4 suits, the 16 court cards and the numbered cards, even without the illustrated pips, you can go a great distance just based on the numbers and the suit energy and how you combine those. So I would say that any Pip deck is a good basic. But for the purposes of this video, I want to talk about basic in a slightly different sense. So the 2 that I am choosing for this are 2 kind of related decks, and one is a deck that's very popular. I don't think I've shown it on this channel before, but it is, of course, the Wild Unknown. And the reason I'm choosing this is because it, for me, just has such a great representative earth-based energy, nature-based energy that is so foundational and so just so important and so much a part of what I think, you know, I think of my life as being, that I just, you know, can't not mention this deck. So I would see this very much as a deck that addresses basic needs, and although some of the images in this deck are really quite challenging in some ways, and for some people I think they find them quite difficult because they're nature based, because they're animal based, because there are no people, for me I think they're just stunning images, and they speak very clearly to me and say a great deal. And although it's a challenging deck in some respects, I also find it a very homely deck. In fact, one of the other questions is about what would be a safety deck for you, and I could have included this one, but no, I'm going to put it in with the basics. So that's one of them. That's my first pick for basic needs, a deck that meets basic needs. And the other is a deck that's long out of print, and actually the copy I have isn't the official copy. The artist of this deck made her images available, freely available on the internet, so that people can print their own decks, and that's what I've done. And it is the lovely Greenwood Tarot. That's the back that I've made for mine. And again, these images to me are just very, very striking, nature-based, people involved this time, so a bit different to the Wild Unknown, but the artwork is just so fantastic. Oh, that isn't actually a card from Greenwood, that's an piece of art by the artist that I had made into a card for myself. Back to the actual deck, just lovely images. So again, I see this as being very foundational Not foundational necessarily in terms of a tarot system, because it does use a different system, although in this edition what has been done is the cards have been related to the basic kind of system, the Rider-Waite-Smith system, but the original deck didn't work to that system. A bit difficult to explain unless you know the background to the deck. But anyway, that is my other foundation. I can't resist showing you more images. They're just so fantastic. It's a lovely, lovely deck. So that's my other, that's my other foundational deck. So moving swiftly on, that was basic needs. So level 2 is safety. What deck gives you the home sweet home vibe? Well, there are a few. I mean, one deck that gives me a home sweet home vibe is Tarot of the Old Path, but I'm not going to show you that because I've shown it so many times on this channel before. But that gives me a home sweet home vibe because it was my first deck, so when I go to that deck it feels like coming back to my tarot home. But the decks that I'm going to mention are, and some of these are kind of tongue-in-cheek, this isn't a deck that I would say I'm particularly fond of as a tarot deck in itself. It's the Hanson Roberts tarot. I've got a little dinky version of it that I got in a tarot kit. But there is just something so endearing about the images in this, and so cute about some of the images. I mean, look, even the Devil card, although in some ways it's kind of hideous, it's also kind of cute. So I can't help but just see this as a kind of homely deck. I wouldn't see this deck ever as being threatening because of the artwork and the colouring. It just seems cute. It's like one of those. It reminds me of you know, the Dark Crystal, the Gelflings in the Dark Crystal. Some of the people in this remind me of the Gelflings in the Dark Crystal, and there's nothing wrong with that. So that's one of them. And then another Home Sweet Home deck that is also based on the Rider-Waite-Smith system, is a kind of inspired by the Rider-Waite-Smith, is the Morgan Grier tarot. And the reason this gives me a home sweet home vibe is because the images on it in some cases are just so 1970s. I think it was Kelly Bear that described it as a 70s porn deck, although there's no porn in it. But I know exactly what she meant. Forgive me, Kelly, if it wasn't you for taking your name in vain, but I think it was Kelly that said it's like all the moustaches make you think of 70s porn films. Not that I would know about such things. But there's something homely about this deck as well. And of course I am a child of the 70s, so I'm actually probably more of a child of the 80s because I was born in 73, so it's the 80s that I really remember. I remember bits of the 70s as well, of course, but so that's quite homely. Now the light is beginning to bother me, so if it's bothering me, now this is going to be interesting. This is my new light setup. Excuse me while I duck out of view and try to figure out what the hell I'm actually doing. Is this going to go up or down? Oh, that's going down. Is that better or worse? We'll just press on. If you can see me, that's fine. I can't see very well on what's in front of me, but that doesn't matter. If you can see me, we're okay. So this is another deck, quite a newly acquired deck for me, or very newly acquired deck for me, that I think is rather homely and safe, and it is the Good Tarot. Colette Baron Reid's Good Tarot. I'm not normally a fan of collage decks, but this one really attracted me, and this is the kind of deck that I could imagine, by and large, some of the images might be a bit disturbing for children, but I think you could probably read for children and nervous adults with this without too much fear. Partly because some of the, what you might call the tricky cards, let's just see, for example, Death is transformation. Yeah, so for me that's kind of, you know, an interesting kind of way of looking at things. So let me see if I can find it. All the suits are renamed by their elements, so you've got 6 of air and so on. So 6 of swords, a favourite card of mine, 6 of air, very much about transport. Nothing there to say, you know, difficult journey, but it's kind of implied if you know the system. So I think that works well as a rather nice little warm homely deck. And then finally, for my homely safety decks, another deck that I acquired recently, and that's the Wisdom Seeker's Tarot. A pip deck this, but again, kind of gentle imagery, nothing too heavy, and again the people look very kind of cute and inviting. It's not a deck that looks scary really, and even, you know, here's the death card. There's something cartoonish about these cards that I think would mean that even if you were a nervous kind of person, it probably wouldn't unnerve you. And those are some of the majors. The minors are nice as well. Let me just show you. There's cups, 8 of cups. You know, there's something storybook-like about this deck. It's available in 2 variations. I can't quite remember the name. One's Wisdom Seekers and the other is something else. Truth Seekers, perhaps. It's the same pictures, but the one that I don't have has got gilding on the images, and I think it's not available very easily now. But I actually wanted the one without gilding because I'd read somewhere that the gilded version was quite difficult to shuffle. So that's right, let's move on. So that was a safety deck, home sweet home decks. Level 3, love and belonging. What deck gives you, what deck would you use for sexy, lusty kind of energy? Well, for me, that again is a fairly easy choice, because one that immediately sprung to mind in relation to that was the Mary L. Tarot. And you know, those of you who know it will know why that is. Some of the, well, all of the images are just stunningly amazing. And some of them are also quite sexual in the way they're depicted. I've not picked those out particularly, so I'm not necessarily showing you those. Not that I'm not showing you them, it's just that if they're in my hand then I'll show them. If they're not, then I won't. But this is the deck that I think has a very kind of fiery, passionate energy to it. I mean, look at that. Look at that 8 of Wands. That is passionate. So, yeah, there are some cards where you just kind of go, whoa, that is pretty lusty. Some of the court cards are quite, you know, that's not a court card, the 10 of Wands, but some of the court cards are also quite striking in the way that they really kind of hit you with sexual imagery. Not necessarily sexual, but imagery that can be construed as sexual. Your passion and power. So, yeah, Mary L. Definitely the Mary L. So that's my sexy, lusty deck. And I know that this part of the tag is actually could also be about love and belonging, but I've gone for the sexy, lusty element. Don't ask me why. So that's that. Then level 4, the confidence booster, the self-esteem deck. Well, for me, and I can't say that I have any experience of this deck yet because I haven't used it very much, but for me, the feeling I got when I saw this deck and wanted to get it, was very much around that energy of confidence and self-esteem, and that is, it's the Orasoma Tarot. Recently acquired, haven't used it yet really, but there is something both in the imagery. I love this Emperor card. You know, the Emperor card can be a bit problematic sometimes. I think sometimes he looks a bit severe, but in this he looks like a true ruler. And of course there are 2 Emperor cards because there are 2 sets of major arcana. But these cards I think are just brilliant for, or will be brilliant for working on self-esteem, and a very kind of future-focused kind of cards. And they also work with the Orasoma system on the back of the card, so you can actually use that as well as the tarot. Too complicated to go into here in detail. There are other videos online about it, and I recommend if you're interested you look at those. But the whole deck is very much constructed on self-development and personal spiritual development and moving forward, and how you interact with the energies of the cards and the energies of the Orasoma system. So I think this would work very well as a self-esteem boosting, confidence boosting deck. And then level 5, final question, which deck is your high vibrations deck? Well, one that I would have chosen, but again I'm not going to show it because I've shown it so many times on this channel, and you can find other videos by me and others on it, and that's the Spiral Tarot. I think that, particularly in the majors, gives a very high vibration. Of course there's other decks like the Thoth deck. I think that's got an amazing kind of higher vibration feeling to it. All tarot does really, but I think I know what Tracy's getting at in this question, that kind of higher level. And then I would say what I pick for this one is, these aren't actually tarot cards, they're more like art cards, but these are pictures from the Tarot Revisioned, and I've done a video unboxing of these, so you can see more about that if you look at that. But I think, you know, the amount of esoteric imagery that's encoded into these, for me, is just very much a high energy, high vibration deck. And there's a book that goes with this, and that has lots of information about the symbolism and the energy in the deck. So that is my those are my 5 levels for Maslow's hierarchy in the tarot card or decks that I would put in them. There's one extra question: would you combine different decks from different levels, and why? Well, the short answer to that is I would, if I wanted to, I would combine any or all of the above decks. I don't necessarily feel I need to stick to particular levels at any one time. I might combine decks across several levels, or I might stick with one level and combine different decks within that level. So I think that would be absolutely fine. But I can't really point to which of them I would combine without really giving it a bit more thought, and also I probably wouldn't restrict myself in that way. An obvious combination, for example, for me anyway, would be the Wild Unknown and Greenwood, because of the thematic similarities in some ways. But that's not to say that I wouldn't combine the Wild Unknown with the Good Tarot or Tarot of the Old Path, or indeed Tarot Revisioned. So that was my response to the ladder tarot tag, and please have a look at Tracy's original video below, and please join in the tag as well, because I think this is a fascinating tag and is great to get the brain thinking about the different levels of need and what we bring to those levels in terms of our which tarot decks we would reach for in terms of trying to meet those different levels of need. Very interesting question, great fun to do, and I hope you've enjoyed it. So I'll see you again very soon. Take care everyone, bye.